Parliament instead of President Draupadi Murmu.
First item that is taken up for consideration by the Parliament every year is the motion of thanks to the President of India. So President is the head of the Parliament. We are committed to the Constitution of India and we are committed to safeguarding it. That is the signal. Well, the government and the Prime Minister is committed to destroying the Constitution of India.
The Aam Aadmi Party and the Trinamool Congress were the first to announce that they will stay away from the ceremony.
TMC has decided to boycott the inauguration of the new parliament by Narendra Modi. Our main reason is the neglect of the president. The other thing is we feel that Narendra Modi is using this inauguration as a bid to promote himself, his own personal image. Not even the Vice President's name. Vice President is the chairman of the Rajya Sabha. Is mentioned in the card.
Later, the Congress and 18 opposition parties signed a joint declaration announcing that they will boycott the inauguration.
Prime Minister is the leader of the Lok Sabha only. Rajya Sabha, Piyush Goyal is the leader. So who is the main leader? Main leader is Rashtrapati.
Home Minister Amit Shah urged the opposition not to politicize the inauguration of the new parliament building.
हमने तो भारत सरकार ने सबको विनंती किया है कि आप उपस्थित रहिए, सब अपनी अपनी भावना के अनुसार करेंगे.
The BJP stand is that while the president is the head of state, it is the Prime Minister who is the head of government and leads the parliament on behalf of the government. That's why it's only fitting that he should inaugurate the new building.
पहले इनकी पार्लियामेंट की कार्रवाई के बाइकाट की सनद अब पार्लियामेंट के बहिष्कार की साजिश में बदल गई है. इससे आप अंदाजा लगा सकते हैं कि इनका लोकतंत्र के प्रति, इनका संविधान के प्रति, इनके संसदीय मूल्यों और मर्यादाओं के प्रति कितनी प्रतिबद्धता है. या तो ये समझ गए कि 2024 में शून्य बटे सन्नाटा होने वाले हैं, तो इसलिए जो है पहले से तैयारी कर लो कि संसद के बाहर ही बैठो.
Prime Minister Modi laid the foundation stone for the new parliament building in 2020. At that point of time as well, Congress and several other opposition parties stayed away from the ceremony, questioning its timing since the pandemic was raging and the country was experiencing economic distress due to the COVID lockdown. Amid the boycott calls this time around, the BJP pointed out that in 1975, Indira Gandhi had inaugurated the parliament annex. And in 1987, Rajiv Gandhi laid the foundation of the Parliament Library. So is it about propriety or pure politics?
Okay, so let me open this up to our panelists who are joining us. We've got a full-fledged panel of senior spokespersons and members of Parliament joining us. Professor Rakesh Sinha is Rajya Sabha Member of Parliament of the BJP. Sushmita Dev is Rajya Sabha Member of Parliament of the TMC. S.R. Krishna is spokesperson of the YSR Congress, one of the opposition parties that's actually supporting this move. And Rohan Gupta, national spokesperson of the Congress, will also be joining us. Professor Rakesh Sinha, the contention made by opposition parties, and 20 of them, not one or two, but 20 opposition parties have signed a joint letter saying that they are going to boycott the inauguration. They are saying this is an insult to the first tribal woman president. That the president is the head of the state, should be the one who is inaugurating this, not the Prime Minister who is the head of the government or the ruling party, but it's the head of the state who should be doing this.
You know, they are fighting against the Indian Constitution. They are fighting against the parliamentary democracy. And they are fighting against the great tradition of this country. They are making everything controversial. Basically, constitutional offices are being made controversial by the opposition party. I'm asking a question. Why they have boycotted the president's address in the parliament? They have to answer to the nation. At every time, they created a controversy against the presidential office by boycotting the speeches. I'm asking the question that when Prime Minister Narendra Modi is leading a grand desire, a grand movement and campaign against that is decolonization of Indian mind. And it is surprising. There is a coincidence of commonality between Narendra Modi ji and Frantz Fanon. Although he was a Marxist, Narendra Modi is a nationalist. There is a great compatibility between the two. Frantz Fanon said that without eliminating every structure of the colonial period, which is a symbol of this sovereignty, you cannot create the decolonized state. And Prime Minister has done a great job. Second important thing is that when Prime Minister is inaugurating, opposition, I am reminding the opposition party, in 1975, Indira Gandhi inaugurated the parliament annexing. Then Fakhruddin Ali Ahmad was the Prime Minister. Should I ask that it was an insult of the Muslim Prime Minister? You are categorizing the presidential position as a tribal, as a Muslim. When Murmu became the presidential candidate, you just see the reaction of the opposition parties. Their reaction was not a positive and constructive. Therefore, I think that this is an opportunism. And that opportunism is against the very, very essence of the parliamentary democracy.
Okay, so let me ask Sushmita Dev this. Why this newfound love for Draupadi Murmu? When her candidature was proposed by the BJP, your party did not support it. In fact, you had propped up Mr. Yashwant Sinha as your candidate. When she addressed the first joint session of Parliament, your party had boycotted it. Why are you suddenly showing this new love for India's first tribal woman president? Because you never really, had a role to play in her becoming that.
I find the question very interesting because the debate today is on parliamentary democracy. The key word being democracy. So where the constitution provides that a post can be contested, everybody's democratic right as a party is there to contest that post. And anybody who participates in that election to question their loyalty to the President of India once she's elected is itself an absurdity. And I think Rakesh Sinha ji is a very senior parliamentarian. He understands that. And let me remind him that there was one Punno Sangma ji also, the tribal candidate who had contested for the president's post. And we all know what the BJP did then. So let's not make it about why we contested the presidential post.
Okay.
I think what is important here is the letter that has been issued by 20 parties, because I believe that KCRG is also on board as we speak.
Yeah.
I think a couple of hours back in the press meet. We are asking a very pertinent question. We have put behind us the plethora of questions that were raised about the need to make such an ostentatious building when the entire economy was suffering after a huge unprecedented pandemic. Putting all that aside, this is a government that has constantly relegated parliamentary democracy into a dictatorship inside the parliament and outside the parliament. The last session stands testimony where the treasury benches disrupted the parliament. Apart from that, Jaka, if you're a keen observer of Indian politics, you know how bills have been bulldozed, how standing committees have been made absolutely redundant. And now, to camouflage all of that, comes an ostentatious building where Prime Minister Modi wants to tom-tom his commitment towards democracy. But I don't think one can ignore the way Parliament has been, I believe, relegated to nothing.
Okay, no, I want to ask Rohan Gupta.
Just one second, Jaka, just one thing.
Okay.
Just one thing I want to say, that please read the letter of the opposition carefully. We fail to understand that why the President of India has been totally excluded despite the fact that she's the head of the state.
Okay, you made that point. So let me, one second. I want to ask Rohan Gupta. The BJP, yesterday you heard Hardeep Puri, the minister, come out and say that, in 1975 when the Parliament Annexi building was inaugurated, Indira Gandhi, then Prime Minister, inaugurated it. When the Parliament Library building was inaugurated in 1987, the then Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi inaugurated it. Forget about all this. When the current Parliament building, the existing Parliament building was inaugurated in 1927 by Lord Irwin, who was then the Viceroy of the British government here in India, Jawaharlal Nehru attended that. So Jawaharlal Nehru, who was the first Prime Minister of this country, did not have a problem in attending Lord Irwin's inauguration of the current Parliament building, but the Congress party has a problem attending Mr. Modi's inauguration of the new Parliament building.
No, Zaka. We do not have problem Mr. Modi attending the inauguration of new Parliament. We have problem that first citizen of the country is not invited to this function. We have absolutely no issue with Mr. Prime Minister. But please understand, Zaka, this kind of debate, I am really surprised and amazed why BJP has allowed this debate to happen. Your president is in the country. The lady, a lady from humble background, BJP selected them and she has been elected as the president and she is not invited. This is amazing, Zaka. We are not against Mr. Modi attending this function. We are against President being not called to this function. There is no logic it will justify this. Because Parliament, as you know, it's a soul of our democracy. Obviously, BJP has always killed our soul of the democracy, whether it is free farm laws or whether it is note ban. They have always disrespected democracy. They have always disrespected Parliament. But this is the extreme.
So how do you explain, sir, then in 1975 when Indira Gandhi inaugurated the Annexi building, Fakhruddin Ali Ahmed, who was the president, was not the one who was inaugurating. In 87, when Mr. Rajiv Gandhi inaugurated the Parliament Library building, then President Venkatraman was not the one who was inaugurating. It was the Prime Minister who was inaugurating. So that was okay.
There is a difference. No, there is a difference between any extension and the main Parliament building. There's two different things. Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, he inaugurated the new building of the library. He never inaugurated the Parliament. We are talking, and again, Zaka, let me tell you one thing. This government is in power for 9 years. The president has been elected by this government. It has been candidate of their party. You give me one logic why she should not be invited. Give me one logic.
Okay,
is there any logic?
Rakesh Sinha, please respond, and then I'll go to S.R. Krishna of the YSRCP, one of the few opposition parties who is actually backing this move and will be joining the inauguration on Sunday. But Rakesh Sinha, please respond. Any explanation for why the president was not invited or was not the person who's inaugurating?
You know, Congress is not in the position to answer the question raised by me and my party. Two questions are very fundamental to this controversy. One, that why Rajiv Gandhi inaugurated a parliamentary library and not the president. Congress has no answer. They say that there is a difference between parliament building and the parliament library. There is a difference between parliament annexing and the parliament building. Then why the president was not called? In fact, India is a parliamentary democracy. In parliamentary democracy, Prime Minister is the head of the, not head of the state, but virtually the executive power is led by the Prime Minister of the country, whether the Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru or Prime Minister Modi. So you cannot ignore your own structural system of parliamentary democracy. You go to Britain, you see the parliamentary democracy, how it functions. Not in every function the king and queen is called. Yeah. You go to any part, if you want that, you should plead for the presidential system in the country. Why don't you have a debate of the presidential system in the country rather than going to this debate?
Okay, so let me ask S.R. Krishna of the YSRCP. You, along with, I believe, BJD and a couple of other opposition parties, regional parties, are going to be part of this inauguration. You have not joined issue with the other opposition parties and not joined this list of 20 opposition parties who are boycotting this particular inauguration that will happen on Sunday. What is the rationale of your party and why are you participating while the other opposition parties are not?
Zaka, be very, very clear. Our party has taken a stand. Our Chief Minister, Mr. Jagannathan Reddy, has taken a stand that we will be attending the inauguration on May 28th. And we believe that the Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurating the Parliament is completely fine with us. As the Honourable BJP member who was on the show has said, the Prime Minister is the head of the largest party in Parliament. I think the idea of this new parliamentary building was conceived by BJP, conceived in fact by Mr. Narendra Modi, and implemented by them. So we don't see any problem in this whole affair being inaugurated by Mr. Narendra Modi. In fact, it is a symbol. The new parliament building is a symbol of a resurgent new India, economically strong, self-reliant, which a lot of people have been saying. And further, also, there's one other point, Jacob, we would like to make. See, every action should have a reasonable reaction, right? Okay, certain parties have stated that, they have a different opinion on who should be inaugurating it. That's fine. It's a free country. Everybody has their opinion. But I don't think it's proper to boycott the inauguration. There's a line we should draw. The parliament belongs to everyone. And, and it is the Prime Minister that's inaugurating. And I think everybody should attend. It's okay to have a different opinion. That's fine. In a free country, everybody has their own opinions. That's fine. But I think skipping the inauguration and boycotting it is, I think, crossing the line, which is not really required.
So let me ask Sushmita Dev that, this is an inauguration of the Parliament building. The Parliament building has ruling party MPs and opposition MPs. Today, this is the ruling party. Tomorrow, the opposition could be the ruling party, right? And this is a Parliament building, Sushmita Dev, that's going to outlast this current dispensation, the next and probably the next. It's going to be around for 100 years. Why is the opposition not looking at it from a point of view of continuity of Indian democracy? This parliament building will far outlast Mr. Modi or Ms. Murmu or anyone, any member of parliament who is currently there in the house.
Absolutely. We agree.
See, this parliament, why 100 years? It may continue for 500 years.
Yeah.
But I think the point we are making is that the way it has been inaugurated sets a bad precedent, Jaka. And I find it quite amusing that an honorable member of parliament should compare a library and an annexee to the parliament house. I mean, it is. I'm quite amused, if you ask me. And I would like to tell my friend who just spoke and said everybody's right to have their view. Remember one thing, Jaka, like you said, one day Mr. Modi will not be there, and believe me, the history will judge the opposition for what they were doing on a day where a bad precedent was being set. Today, the narrative may be different. Today, some parties have the compulsion to stand by Mr. Modi. They have their reasons. We respect it. We don't want to question it. But the fact is, propriety is propriety and impropriety is impropriety. It doesn't matter whether this building stays for another 1,000 years. That is not the question.
No, but you are not worried that history will judge you unkindly, that at a moment of national pride, the TMC and the rest of the opposition were not part of that moment of national pride. You're not worried about that.
No. Let me tell you something. I also found it quite amusing when Prime Minister Modi did a midnight session because he was taxing the people of India. So this is a party of events and PR exercises. Whereas, believe me, if you understand the way Parliament works, Parliament has been turned into a circus and a mockery by this government. And that's the harsh reality.
Okay, Rohan Gupta, you know, the other thing that was outlined today by the Home Minister is that there is something called the Sengol, which was given to the first Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, in 1947 on the eve of independence. The Sengol was some kind of a symbol of the transition of power from the British to independent India. After that, nobody has seen or heard about the Sengol. It was not taken care of. And today, in fact, this coming Sunday, when the new Parliament building gets inaugurated, a bunch of priests, this was apparently part of the Chola dynasty, a bunch of priests from Tamil Nadu will give the Sengol to Prime Minister Modi, and Prime Minister Modi will inaugurate it, and it will be kept in a prominent place in the new Parliament building. Basically, the Home Minister and the BJP saying that this is yet another example of how the Congress has not valued our own Indian history, including this relic from the Chola dynasty.
See, Zaka, the government which is not respecting the present, precedent, they are talking about all these things. It is not, digestible. The basic issue is, Zaka, the first citizen of the country is not invited to such a big event of the country. Can you digest it? Forget about politics, forget about BJP, forget about Congress. If she is in country and if she is not invited to such a function, how can you digest that?
What about the Sengol? Please respond on the Sengol.
It's a matter of our pride. I cannot comment on anything. The government can do anything, but I would have been happy if this had been handed over to the first citizen of the country rather than Prime Minister. I would have been happier.
But tell me, Rohan, the Lok Sabha Speaker, who is the custodian of the lower house, which is of course the representative of people's mandate and people's democracy, the custodian of the lower house has invited the Prime Minister. What is wrong with that?
Again, the custodian of the Lok Sabha or the Parliament, if he doesn't invite the first citizen of the country, do you feel that is correct? It is government's responsibility. They can definitely request. If they want us to request, we can also request. The speaker is not the person who is out of the country. He is amongst us. He is one of the MPs of BJP. He is a respected citizen of the country. He is the custodian of our parliament. Why he cannot be requested?
No, but the BJP, again, using this example of the Sengol to say that this is yet another example of the Congress discarding Indian history and pride of India.
It is a habit of BJP that they will live in history where they have not contributed anything. They have absolutely no right of being proud because they have never contributed to our democracy or our independence. But at the same time, the president who has been elected by BJP, who has been their presidential candidate, and I really fail to understand how BJP can do this kind of goof up. It's a real big goof up. BJP is now caught. They don't know where to go. How can they put onus on the speaker, Zaka? It is the president, his prime minister is there, the whole government is there. How can they put onus of not inviting the president on the heads, on the shoulder of the speaker?
Professor Rakesh Sinha.
You know, Congress is talking, and as well as TMC is also talking about the respect and dignity of the President of India. I am reminding the recent history of India. When Rajendra Prasad was president, how he was humiliated when he said that he is going to inaugurate a temple in Gujarat. How he was insulted on the question of Uniform Civil Code and Hindu Code Bill. Rajendra Prasad was basically humiliated by the Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru in the Congress. I am reminding about the Gyani Jail Singh. When he stopped the postal bill, entire government made a mockery of Gyani Jail Singh. I am reminding him. Rohan Gupta might not be knowing the name. The person K.K. Tiwari hold a press conference. K.K. Tiwari was a minister in the Rajiv Gandhi cabinet. He hold a press conference against Gyani Jail Singh, the President of India. This family does not respect the constitutional institution. For them, 10 Janpath is the constitution, 10 Janpath is the President's house, 10 Janpath is the Prime Minister's house, and 10 Janpath is the Parliament. India, 140 crore people cannot tolerate the 10 Janpath, this mockery of the great ceremony. And you are talking about the respect of the President. I'm also reminding how Fakhruddin Ali Ahmad signed the decree on the emergency, proclamation of emergency, and cabinet meeting had taken later on.
Okay.
Is it not the mockery? When Rahul Gandhi torn out the papers of the cabinet decision. So this Congress party has no respect for the institution. Only thing is that anti-Modism has become anti-parliamentary democracy. Anti-Modism has become akin to anti-BJPism. Prime Minister Modi reminded the opposition party, you oppose the Prime Minister, you oppose BJP, you oppose RSS and the ideology of the but by opposing that, you are
Rohan, the Congress party should not be talking about disrespecting the president, whether it's Fakhruddin Ali. Okay, I've got a piece of breaking news. I'm coming to Rohan in 1 second. This is a piece of breaking news that's coming in. The National Democratic Alliance, the NDA, which is of course the ruling alliance, has now put out a statement. I'm going to read from it. It says that it unequivocally condemns the decision of the opposition political parties to boycott the inauguration of the new parliament building. This act is not merely disrespectful, it is a blatant affront to the democratic ethos and constitutional values of our great nation. Over the past 9 years, these opposition parties have repeatedly shown scant regard for parliamentary procedures. The recent boycott is just another feather in the cap of disregard for democratic processes. Let me ask, get in a word from Sushmita Dev on this. So you have the NDA alliance, which is the ruling alliance, saying that this is utter disregard for the constitutional values and democratic ethos of our great nation.
I mean, obviously the NDA is going to pass a statement saying that this is blasphemous to the Constitution. But I can tell you and I can tell you that if you watch the proceedings of the Parliament, you will see that just like this government uses a bulldozer outside the Parliament, it uses a bulldozer inside the Parliament. We can't debate on price rise. We can't debate on Adani. Our microphones go off. So I think that the NDA has absolutely zero moral authority to question us on constitutional values. And let me tell you, when history is written, these will be the darkest days of the Indian democracy, which is Narendra Modi ji's era and his rule.
Rohan Gupta, isn't it a bit rich when the Congress says President and President's office have been insulted? You know, Rajiv Gandhi and Gyani Jail Singh didn't exactly get along all that well. It's been very well documented by numerous journalists who were covering the Rajiv Gandhi PMO. We had the instance of Fakhruddin Ali Ahmed urgently being pushed to sign the emergency proclamation. There have been numerous instances where Congress was in government and they didn't particularly get along well with the incumbent president at that time.
See, who are you asking?
Rohan. Yeah.
To elected, whether Prime Minister, President, there can be difference of opinion. I don't deny that. That doesn't mean that you disrespect President. We are talking about the President of the country not being invited to the inauguration of new Parliament. Come on, Zaka, there is a difference. One more thing. Your flash is showing NDA. Where is NDA? They have killed NDA. They have bulldozed NDA. They have bulldozed democracy. There are no parties. The second most biggest party is the stolen Shiv Sela. Where is NDA? Now BJP remembers NDA when 20 party boycotted this thing. Now NDA, after maybe 5 years, I am seeing one highlight where NDA is on the screen of TV screens. Absolutely. So this is the win of the opposition parties. When 20 parties boycotted this, BJP remembered of NDA.
So S.R. Krishna, doesn't it worry you that parties like yourself are in a lone minority, yourself, the BJD, etc., because the rest of the opposition, it's not one or two, it's 20 parties who are on the other side saying that they are boycotting this for proprietary reasons?
Raga, I just want to first of all respond to the Honorable TMC member's earlier statement that we are somehow supporting this issue because of some compulsions. Let me point out very clearly that there have been many instances in the past where we have voted against the ruling majority in parliament, which is the BJP party. So that's not the issue. Here we feel very simply, our situation here is very simple, which is that the parliament building belongs to the nation. It belongs to all parties. It belongs to the people of the country. And it is okay to have a different opinion on the matter. We are not saying it's not okay. Our opinion is, first of all, that inauguration by the Prime Minister is fine. And secondly, we also respect the other people's opinions. All we are saying is, I don't think it's correct to boycott the inauguration. I think everybody should attend it. And at the same time, they're free to express their opinions. And Jaka, I think we are fine. We believe that it's fine for the Prime Minister to inaugurate, and we are going to stand by that.
So let me ask Professor Rakesh Sinha, as the custodian of the House, as it were, wasn't it easier for the Speaker to say that we are inviting the leaders of all parties in Parliament, Leader of the House in the Lok Sabha, the Prime Minister, Leader of the Opposition, other leaders of various parliamentary parties in the Lok Sabha and in the Rajya Sabha, and without having to, say X or Y or Z is inaugurating, that all of these people have been invited. And since the Speaker is the chair of the Lok Sabha and the Vice President is the chair of the Rajya Sabha, they should be the ones who should be inaugurating it. They are the custodians of the respective two houses.
Basic ethos of parliamentary democracy must be understood by everyone. Without Prime Minister, you cannot imagine the parliamentary democracy. As in America, without the President, you cannot imagine the presidential system in America. Therefore, this is an unnecessary controversy created by the opposition parties because they lack any agenda to appear before the people. One very important and significant point here I am mentioning and I am asking to the Congress party. What about Gyani Jail Singh? Mockery of Gyani Jail Singh. They have made also mockery of the other presidents. I don't want to name everyone because when Rajendra Prasad was insulted, humiliated by Jawaharlal Nehru, there are several letters. When he went to inaugurate Somnath Temple, Pandit Nehru wrote letter to all the chief ministers not to attend that inauguration. This is a personal initiative by the President of India.
Okay.
Congress party has always considered these institutions as the appendix of the 10th Janpat or the dynasty. And they don't tolerate any person emerging as a visionary. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is not merely a prime minister. Just I'm ending. He can be compared only with Chandragupta Maurya or Vikramaditya. He had transcended by his vision, by his action. He is remaking India. And 140 crore people are behind Prime Minister Narendra Modi. His vision and action is unmatched.
But
with
Professor Saab, the problem in that articulation is that neither Chandragupta Maurya nor Vikramaditya were democratically elected by their respective kingdoms. They were kings, right? By saying or making that analogy, you are saying that our parliamentary democracy has become a kingdom.
No, what is here? It is the values they cherished. They had created, in their own way, they had created the empire. They had created the Indian system. Here the feeling of Swadeshi is coming from the parliament. Feeling of the decolonization is coming from the new parliament. The feeling of new India is coming from the parliament.
Mr. Sinha.
Yeah, Sushmita and then Rohan, yeah. Okay, I got to wrap up.
Just I want to say, Mr. R.K. Sinha is giving such a long argument, but he has not been able to answer. Why have you not invited the President of India? Invite her.
Okay.
Why have you not invited her?
Okay.
आपने राष्ट्रपति जी को इनवाइट क्यों नहीं किया? इसका जवाब तो दीजिए व्यूअर्स को. आप यही बोल नहीं पा रहे.
No.
जब प्रधानमंत्री इनॉग्रेट कर रहे हैं, देखिए जब
why have you not invited president? Just answer that. Uska karan bata dijiye na desh ko.
You boycott at home program of the President of India. You have boycotted at home program.
No. I want to ask, and I'll end with this. I want to ask Rohan this. When the Manipur Assembly building was inaugurated a few years ago, it was inaugurated by the then Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. When the Tamil Nadu State Assembly, the new complex, was inaugurated a few years ago, it was inaugurated by Manmohan Singh and Sonia Gandhi. Neither the governor was inaugurating at that time, nor was anybody else inaugurating. So it's okay for the Prime Minister in the UPA era to go around inaugurating state assemblies. What is wrong with the current Prime Minister inaugurating the new Parliament building?
See, Zaka, the issue is not against Mr. Modi attending the function or that. Like Mr. Rakesh Sinha was saying that everybody is against Mr. Modi. He's talking about the president of the country. He's talking against Mr. Modi. What absurd arguments he's giving? We are not against Mr. Modi. We are not saying that why he's attending the function. We are just saying, even if you want Mr. Modi to inaugurate, at least invite the citizen of the country. What stops you from that? Absolutely absurd. There is no logic of not inviting the president of the country who is in the country on that day.
Okay.
There is no logic, Zara.
Professor Sinha, I'll give you the last word. I think Sushmita also asked the same question. So did Rohan. Yeah, your answer, and then I'll wrap up after that. Yeah. Professor Rakesh Sinha.
There is a popular leadership, elected leadership, and they elected by the majority and popular in the country. In Indian democracy, it's not, you don't make a mockery. In democracy, the president is a head of the state and symbolic importance.
No answer.
President signs.
No answer.
But it is actually cabinet functions. You are just making the institution of represent.
You're going round and round, but no answer.
Okay, I got to wrap up. Thank you very much to Professor Rakesh Sinha, Sushmita Dev, Rohan Gupta, and of course Mr. Krishna of the YSRCP. We'll see how this plays out in the run for Sunday. I'm very clear about certain things. A new parliament, like I said at the top of yesterday's show, and I continue to insist, a new parliament is not just of the ruling party, it's not just this current dispensation, it is for posterity. It is for Indian democracy. There will be generations of parliamentarians who will sit in that building, bills will be debated, bills will be rejected. This is about an institution. This is about India as a democracy. Yes, the opposition has a point in why the president was not invited, why the president is not the one who's inaugurating. Maybe they have a point, but to boycott a function of national importance, where it's not just about one party, the current ruling party or the current opposition party, it is absolutely doesn't make any sense that they should reduce this function of national importance to some kind of, petty party politics, as it were. All right, let's shift focus to the other big story. It's coming in from Karnataka, where the hijab ban debate has once again been reignited in the state. Newly elected Minister Priyank Kharge has said that the anti-conversion law that was brought in by the Mumbai government earlier and anything that halts the progress of Karnataka will be repealed. He also mentioned specifically about the cow slaughter bill. Congress MLA N.A. Harris has also echoed the same sentiment, saying that what the BJP did was unconstitutional. He also further said that personal choices must be respected. The BJP has hit back at the Congress, calling it a reverse engine government. Remember, the hijab row began last year in Udupi when hijab-clad students were barred from entering campus. In October 2022, the Supreme Court delivered a split verdict in the case. Justice Gupta was of the opinion that the Karnataka government was well within its right to ban the hijab in educational institutions. However, Justice Dhulia said that it was a matter of choice and that the focus must be on the equality and freedom of speech. As the legal tussle continues, faith-driven politics is once again seemingly back in Karnataka.
ನಮ್ಮ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ನಾವು ಎಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಮ್ಯಾನಿಫೆಸ್ಟೋ ಹೇಳಿದೀವಲ್ಲ, ಗೊತ್ತಲ್ಲ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ. ಅದು ಸಂವಿಧಾನದ ವಿರುದ್ಧ ಅವ್ರು ಮಾಡಿರುವಂತದ್ದು. ಅದನ್ನ ಸಂವಿಧಾನ ಪರ ಏನಿದೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ವೈಯಕ್ತಿಕವಾದಂತದ್ದು ಅದು ಬಂದು ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಬ್ಬ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಯ ವೈಯಕ್ತಿಕ ಇದು, ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರು ಏನು ಹೇಳೋಂಗಿಲ್ಲ.
This is a reverse gear. There will be reverse gear government if it comes, and that's exactly they are proving our allegations. It is a retrograde steps these people are taking. This will not do anything good for the progress of the state.
Anand Gurumurthy of the Karnataka BJP will be joining us. Aishwarya Mahadev, spokesperson of the Congress. Nalan Mehta is group consulting editor with Network 18. Aishwarya Mahadev, this is a matter that even the Supreme Court gave a split verdict a few months ago. The matter is still pending before the Supreme Court. Why does the Congress government want to second guess a matter that's already in court? Why not let the courts decide?
Good evening, Zaka. I think first and foremost, Mr. Priyank Kharge and the Congress party stand united when they talk about laws and bills brought in by the BJP, which do not benefit the state, that does not add to the secular character of the state and is not beneficial in any way. This is not about a matter that is sub judice, which of course there's a lot that can be commented upon. And this is also not even about the larger dialogue that everybody is trying to make of it being a religious freedom or whether it's an essential practice or not. Zaka, you need to realize what this ban did was it kept so many young girls away from an education, and that we believe is extremely criminal. There's a large ambit of lawmaking that governments can undertake and political parties can undertake. This we believe was non-essential because this controversy never existed before. And mind you, in their run-up to the elections, they did not even mention it, even though this communal sort of politics was the BJP's pole plank. They realized it wasn't working. But at the heart of all of this, to deprive a young girl of an education is a crime, and this needs to be relooked into, Zaka.
But Aishwarya, if you're going to allow, obviously, I mean, the job of the government, the job of the assembly there is to bring in bills, and if you feel that, this hijab ban was unconstitutional, uncalled for, whatever, it's your business to be bringing a bill. But will you then also allow people of other religious faiths to wear, orange scarf or other religious symbolic clothing if you're going to allow hijab inside classrooms?
Zaka, if you look at Karnataka over the years, you've seen that we've been extremely inclusionary in terms of the way that we practice our faith. We are the land of Kuvempu, where Sarva Janangada Shantiya Tota is our ideal and it is our motto. To try and extrapolate one move of empowering women again or young girls to get an education again, to liken it to other religious symbols, I believe is a false corollary, one. Second is, if within the lawmaking ambit, if they believe that the legislators believe that this is something that should be or should not be allowed, I'm sure it is up to the wisdom of them. The limited point we're making is that there were bills in the BJP era that served nobody, that were detrimental to the state. They were detrimental for societal cohesion and unity. And that is something that we're going to relook.
So, Anand Gurumurthy, the person who pushed this whole hijab and ban in schools and pre-university colleges, etc., was the then Education Minister, Mr. Nagesh. Mr. Nagesh himself has lost his own seat. Forget about the BJP losing in the way it did. If that is not a referendum or, the people speaking their mind on this issue, then what can be?
You cannot just hold one person for this, and you cannot also hold that one person's seat is a reflection of the system. See, basically, I just want to tell you one thing. Whatever was there as part of the rules in schools, that was implemented. And other than that, the BJP did not interfere with that in any way, but it became a social cause related thing and people started speaking about it. Now it's in the court, so let's leave it at that. But why is Congress doing this now? See, basically they gave 5 guarantees. All those 5 guarantees can't be implemented. So daily they're having one drama. See, this is just keeping a firecracker every day, lighting it up, and everybody talks about the firecracker. That's it. And then, all you news people will start talking about that and forget the 5 guarantees for a day.
No. Is it your contention, Anand, that the elected state government... One second. Is it your contention that the elected state government cannot bring a bill?
Not like that. What I'm trying to tell you is very simple thing. They are talking about it. Let them do it. Let them do whatever they want to do. Let them fulfill the guarantees. Let them do what they want to do. Why are they coming to media and speaking about it on a day-to-day basis? Why are they, demoralizing our police forces unnecessarily? Let them, they are elected government. They should do their duty, not, shout at police people, not come and shout towards the media.
One second. There is a newly elected government. There are newly elected chief minister, deputy chief minister. They have directed the police force that there won't be any moral policing. What is the BJP's problem with that?
Let's see. Wait a second. Was there any moral policing? Police were doing their duty. Police were not the one who were doing any kind of nonsense.
Okay.
They were doing the duty, and they were called upon and, started talking in a very bad way.
There was no moral policing when BJP was in power. That's your contention.
No. See, one thing you have to understand here is they are trying to, take control of things in a very bad manner. The police were doing a good this thing. In the last 3.5 years, if you see, the crime rate has fallen down in Karnataka. It has been a good police force. They're doing their duty. And also one more thing, you should not demoralize the force at any point in time.
Aishwarya Mahadev, respond. I mean, the police force is supposed to be apolitical. This was your contention when BJP was in power. Now you are, turning the tables. You are using the police force. Aishwarya Mahadev, you are using the police force as though it's some personal fiefdom.
Zaka, it is extremely hilarious that a party and administration that could hardly govern the state wants to give us lectures on governance. Let me tell you, if the police force is actually extremely neutral, there was a minister in the BJP that said we will have Mr. Siddaramaiah hacked the way Tipu was killed. Did anybody do anything about it? No. All we told them in the meeting was that the police have a duty to be secular, that they're supposed to protect the people, be people-friendly, irrespective of caste, creed, and community across the state. And there is nothing wrong in this.
So let me ask Nalin Mehta is waiting. One second, away from the political spokespersons. Let me go to Nalin Mehta. Nalin Mehta, please. Nalin Mehta on screen. Nalin, the question is, the Congress, through much of the campaign, stayed away from the whole hijab issue or halal issue or issues that were considered divisive. Of course, in the fag end, when their manifesto was released, there was this mention of banning the Bajrang Dal. Even that, there was scaling back after the furor around it. What was the need for the Congress to come out and say that we will look at all these laws, cow slaughter law, other laws, anti-conversion law that was brought in by the BJP, this hijab law, and if anything is against the progress of Karnataka, we will circumvent it, or we will, find a via media out of it. Was there any compelling political need to say that, and that too within the first, few days of this government?
So, two things. You're very right, Zaka, that during the election campaign, the Congress played a very smart game by not being baited by the BJP. They avoided the temptation of getting into ideological wars and all of that. I think what the Congress is doing now, because of the scale of its victory, it's signaling that it's won the ideological war in its view, and it's trying to reverse various ideological positions taken by the BJP in governance. While a government, I think you made this point earlier in the program, while any government is especially a government with a good majority, is well within its rights to implement or to try and push through whatever moves they want to push through, which they believe in. I think whether there is political wisdom in doing that right now or not is an open question, because the Congress did not win this on ideological positioning. Is it right? Is it well within its right to do it? Absolutely. But I think overall, this mandate has also been against corruption. It's been an anti-incumbency mandate. It's not necessarily been an ideological mandate. The BJP has retained its vote share as well. Of course, the Congress would argue that, look, we won this. So, but I think if you
let me put that question in another way. What political purpose then is served by the Congress making this a cornerstone issue in a way that they did not during the campaign?
I'm not sure about the larger political purpose beyond the fact that it may be signaling to the rest of the country that this is an ideological fault line. We have now won this electoral battle, and we are now signaling that this is what we stand for. We didn't do this when we were in the campaign trail, because that might have been counterproductive. So I think that's what it is.
Aishwarya, if the Congress stayed away from this issue during the campaign because you believed that it might be politically counterproductive, why then is it not counterproductive now? Why is this the reason why the people of the state elected you? To bring back hijab?
1 second, Zaka, I think again, we're drawing completely false lines on this. The fact that we ran our election on our guarantees and spoke about the BJP's corruption is something that we're taking very strong action on. All 5 of our guarantees have been approved by the cabinet. A lot of criticism, Anand, if you give me time, I'll tell you exactly how he's wrong when he says it. And the other thing is, we've already started investigation, whether it's the Ganga Kalyana scheme. We've already started investigating the scams of the BJP. But do not tell me, because that was not my election plank, that I cannot work to safeguard the secular credentials of my state.
You definitely can. No one is saying no. One second, Aishwarya. The simple contention that's being made is You definitely can. Nalin is also 100% right. You can bring whatever bill you want to bring. You are a big majority government. Obviously, you can read the mandate you please. All I'm asking is, why is there this dissonance? You did not talk about hijab for 3 months of the campaign. But now suddenly within the first week of this government, hijab becomes another big issue. Why?
1 second. Zaka, the idea still remains that we are pro-people. We will work on the plank of taking action for corruption. We will work on the guarantees. We have also spoken about looking at laws that need to be overturned that do not benefit people. For example, you're talking about the cow slaughter, anti-conversion bill. Several times, Mr. Priyank Kharge himself has blown open the fallacy of the BJP's falsehood in session itself. Do not tell me that my government cannot look at re-examining laws that inconveniences people.
Okay.
Election plans are one, but the welfare of the people of the state is of primacy.
So Anand Gurumurthy, it's not just hijab, it's also cattle slaughter ban. They believe there's a economic cost that has been caused because of that. It is also the anti-conversion bill. They're saying the whole gamut of bills. And to be fair to Priyank Kharge, he did not name the hijab issue. He said anti-conversion. He said, of course, the cow slaughter issue. And he said anything that is against progressivism of Karnataka, they will take a relook at. That any government is well within its right to do.
See, it's not about the rights. They're just doing this on a daily basis. They're coming up with one issue. Yesterday, MB Patil came and told it's 5 years of Siddaramaiah. So the whole evening goes in, discussion on that. Today, this issue. Tomorrow, they will start.
But Anand, on day one, they signed their guarantees. Okay, what are you talking about? On day one, they signed their guarantees.
No, see, I think a guarantee with Tatvika, it is just, they've done it. And their promise was from June 1st, you don't have to pay electricity bill. And that was thrown on the people by DCM, who is the DCM today. And, people, they spoke about it in every speech. Siddaramaiah and DK Shivakumar, in every speech, they, in dramatic ways, they have spoken about these guarantees. And then finally, they just say, Tatvika Oppige, like that, the letter is posted. That's it, okay? They are not going to do anything about it. They are going to, just delay things. And they're not able to finalize ministers. And
but Anand, I don't get it. If in the first cabinet meeting, the chief minister and the rest of the cabinet has signed off on these 5 guarantees, I can understand, you asking where is the money going to come from, how are they going to implement. All of this I can understand. But you can't accuse them of not, signing off on the 5 guarantees that they have done.
See, signing off and putting it on officers, then, calling the officers, IPS officers and telling, hey, you're not going to work like this, you're going to work like this. All this is, just talk.
So is the chief minister going to then check, is every woman of the household going to get 2,000 rupees? That's not his job. No. Anyway, you're missing the point, sir. Anyway, let me get Nalin Mehta. As I'm getting, closing comments here. Nalin Mehta, I think there is a dichotomy here that Congress, while it campaigned, it stayed away from this issue for whatever reason. Again, it's a political party. It might be part of a strategy. They're well within their right to stay out of that issue. The assumption is if they've stayed away from that issue, they don't want to polarize it. Why does a party of campaigning and a party of governance have different priorities? It's a fair question to ask.
Well, I think the Congress feels far more confident of implementing these things now because of the mandate it's got. I also think the Congress is signaling to other other states that this is what it stands for unequivocally. I think because of the scale of the victory, this debate of counter-polarization did not happen in Karnataka against the Congress. So therefore, it's feeling more confident. I think it's trying to reward its the voters to message to the voters that came to it. Is it a good? Is it a wise political strategy at this point in time? Is an open question.
Okay, and look, ultimately we are all students of politics. I don't think we're in a position to judge whether this is a wise political move or not. I guess time will tell that. But we leave it at that. Aishwarya Mahadev, Anand Gurumurthy and Nalin Mehta, thank you very much for joining us. We'll see how this story plays out. Like I said, one very critical factor is that this matter is still pending before the Supreme Court. It was a 1-1 split verdict. It's now been referred to a larger bench. So will the Congress actually bring a bill before the Supreme Court, reconvenes and then takes a call on this? Or will they just wait for the Supreme Court to give them some sense of direction and then decide politically thereafter? We'll see how the story plays out. Meanwhile, finally, as we wrap up, Prime Minister Modi has wrapped up his Australia tour. He's headed back to Delhi after a stellar address to the Indian diaspora yesterday. More than 20,000 people attending that. He held bilateral talks with Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese today. They spoke about boosting regional, cultural and economic ties. The Quad, the Russia-Ukraine war, and of course cooperations of countries in the global south were also discussed. Beyond this, they also spoke about the attacks on Hindu temples in Australia over the last few months. Prime Minister Modi thanked Prime Minister Albanese for the strict action that's being taken in these attacks, and he also said that antisocial elements should not be tolerated. Bonhomie was on full display in both the Prime Ministers as they toured the Sydney Opera House, which was lit up with the colours of the Indian flag.
एक्सेलेंसी, जैसा आपने कल कहा था, हमारे लोकतांत्रिक मूल्य हमारे संबंधों का मूल आधार है। हमारे संबंध आपसी विश्वास और सम्मान पर आधारित है। ऑस्ट्रेलिया में भारतीय समुदाय हमारे दोनों देशों के बीच एक लिविंग ब्रिज है। कल शाम मैंने और प्रधानमंत्री अल्बनीजी ने हैरिस पार्क के लिटिल इंडिया का अनावरण किया। आज प्रधानमंत्री अल्बनीजी से वार्ता में हमने अगले दशक में अपनी कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनरशिप को नई ऊंचाइयों पर ले जाने पर बात की। नए क्षेत्रों में आपसी सहयोग की संभावनाओं पर विस्तार में चर्चा की। पिछले साल भारत ऑस्ट्रेलिया एकटा लागू हुआ। आज हमने सीका कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव इकोनॉमिक कोऑपरेशन एग्रीमेंट पर फोकस करने का निर्णय किया। इससे हमारे व्यापार और आर्थिक सहयोग को और मजबूती तथा नए आयाम मिलेंगे। फ्रेंड्स, ऑस्ट्रेलिया में मंदिरों पर होने वाले हमलों और अलगाववादी तत्वों की गतिविधियों के संबंध में हमने पहले भी बात की थी और आज भी हमने बात की है। भारत और ऑस्ट्रेलिया के सौहार्दपूर्ण रिश्तों को कोई भी तत्व अपने विचारों या अपने एक्शन से आघात पहुंचाए, ये हमें स्वीकार्य नहीं है। प्रधानमंत्री अल्बनीजी ने इस संदर्भ में जो कदम उठाए हैं, मैं इसके लिए उनको धन्यवाद देता हूं। साथ ही उन्होंने मुझे एक बार फिर आश्वस्त किया है कि वो ऐसे तत्वों के विरुद्ध सख्त एक्शन लेते रहेंगे। इस साल भारत में होने वाले क्रिकेट वर्ल्ड कप के लिए मैं प्रधानमंत्री अल्बनीजी और सभी ऑस्ट्रेलियाई क्रिकेट फैंस को भारत आने के लिए आमंत्रित करता हूं। उस समय आपको क्रिकेट के साथ साथ दिवाली की चमक और धूमधाम भी देखने को मिलेगी।
Because Parliament, as you know, it's the soul of our democracy. Obviously, BJP has always killed our soul of the democracy, whether it is free farm laws or whether it is note ban. They have always disrespected democracy. They have always disrespected Parliament. But this is the extreme.
So how do you explain, sir, then in 1975 when Indira Gandhi inaugurated the Annexi building, Fakhruddin Ali Ahmed, who was the president, was not the one who was inaugurating. In 87, when Mr. Rajiv Gandhi inaugurated the Parliament Library building, then President Venkatraman was not the one who was inaugurating. It was the Prime Minister who was inaugurating. So that was okay.
There is a difference. No, there is a difference between any extension and the main Parliament building. There are two different things. Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, he inaugurated the new building of the library. He never inaugurated the Parliament. We are talking, and again, Zaka, let me tell you one thing. This government is in power for 9 years. The president has been elected by this government. It has been candidate of their party. You give me one logic why she should not be invited. Give me one logic.
Okay,
is there any logic?
Rakesh Sinha, please respond, and then I'll go to S.R. Krishna of the YSRCP, one of the few opposition parties who is actually backing this move and will be joining the inauguration on Sunday. But Rakesh Sinha, please respond. Any explanation for why the president was not invited or was not the person who was inaugurating?
You know, Congress is not in the position to answer the question raised by me and my party. Two questions are very fundamental to this controversy. One, that why Rajiv Gandhi inaugurated a parliament parliamentary library and not the president? Congress has no answer. They say that there is a difference between parliament building and the parliament library. There is a difference between parliament annexing and the parliament building. Then why the president was not called? In fact, India is a parliamentary democracy. In parliamentary democracy, Prime Minister is the head of the, not head of the state, but virtually the executive power is led by the Prime Minister of the country, whether the Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru or Prime Minister Modi.
The contention made by opposition parties, and 20 of them, not one or two, but 20 opposition parties have signed a joint letter saying that they are going to boycott the inauguration. They are saying this is an insult to the first tribal woman president. The president is the head of the state, should be the one who is inaugurating this, not the prime minister who is the head of the government or the ruling party, but it's the head of the state who should be doing this.
You know, they are fighting against the Indian constitution. They are fighting against the parliamentary democracy. And they are fighting against the great tradition of this country. They are making everything controversial. Basically, constitutional offices are being made controversial by the opposition party. I'm asking a question. Why they have boycotted the president's address in the parliament? They have to answer to the nation. At every time they created a controversy against the presidential office by boycotting the speeches. I am asking the question that when Prime Minister Narendra Modi is leading a grand desire, a grand movement and campaign against that is decolonization of Indian mind. And it is surprising. There is a coincidence of commonality between Narendra Modi ji and Frantz Fanon. Although he was a Marxist, Narendra Modi is a nationalist. There is a great compatibility between the two. Frantz Fanon said that without eliminating every structure of the colonial period, which is a symbol of this sovereignty, you cannot create the decolonized state. And Prime Minister has done a great job. Second important thing is that when Prime Minister is inaugurating, opposition, I am reminding the opposition party, in 1975, Indira Gandhi inaugurated the parliamentary annexing. Then Fakhruddin Ali Ahmad was the Prime Minister. Should I ask that it was an insult of the Muslim Prime Minister? You are categorizing the presidential position as a tribal, as a Muslim. When Murmu became the presidential candidate, you just see the reaction of the opposition parties. Their reaction was not a positive and constructive. Therefore, I think that this is an opportunism. That opportunism is against the very, very ethos of the parliamentary democracy.
Okay, so let me ask Sushmita Dev this. Why this newfound love for Draupadi Murmu? When her candidature was proposed by the BJP, your party did not support it. In fact, you had propped up Mr. Yashwant Sinha as your candidate. When she addressed the first joint session of Parliament, your party had boycotted it. Why are you suddenly showing this new love for India's first tribal woman president? Because you never really, had a role to play in her becoming that.
I find the question very interesting because the debate today is on parliamentary democracy. The key word being democracy. So where the constitution provides that a post can be contested, everybody's democratic right as a party is there to contest that post. And anybody who participates in that election to question their loyalty to the President of India once she's elected is itself an absurdity. And I think Rakesh Sinha ji is a very senior parliamentarian. He understands that. And let me remind him that there was one Purno Sangma ji also, the tribal candidate who had contested for the president's post. And we all know what the BJP did then. So let's not...
Hello, Namaskar. This is First Post and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. Prime Minister Modi is in Australia. Yesterday was all about the outreach to the Indian community, the optics and the colour. Today was about the conversations, the meetings and the deals. A lot of ground was covered. What stood out was India's push on Khalistani terror. The Indian leader asked his Australian counterpart to get cracking and was given an assurance that everything possible will be done. Tonight on Vantage, as we bring you the highlights of the talks, we'll discuss how big Australia's Khalistan problem is and why India is taking it up with such urgency. Meanwhile, in Ukraine, President Zelensky may be playing the Islamic card to make inroads into West Asia. We'll explain. In the US, the Pentagon has lost more than 1 million spare parts of the F-35 fighter jet, and they don't have an explanation. In Kenya, Chinese hackers are targeting the government. We'll tell you why. In Faroe Islands, whale slaughter has triggered an old debate. In Spain, football racism has finally led to arrests after the Brazilian president complained. And if you're feeling blue, experts have a green solution. We'll tell you about it. The headlines first. Will Bakhmut now be known by its Soviet name, Artemovsk? That's the claim made by a Russian-backed official. The Wagner Group says it fully controls this Ukrainian city and will hand it over to the Russian army by June. Kiev disputes this. Will Pakistan ban Imran Khan's party? Shehbaz Sharif's government is mulling it. Defence Minister Khwaja Asif says the attack on military buildings by Imran Khan's supporters was pre-planned, and that's grounds to consider banning the PTI. In India, the Modi government and the opposition face off over the new parliament. 19 opposition parties, including the Congress, will boycott the opening of the new building on Sunday. The opposition is angry that Prime Minister Modi will be inaugurating the new parliament and not the President of India. The UK Prime Minister rules out an ethics probe for Home Secretary Suella Braverman. Rishi Sunak says Braverman's handling of a speeding offence did not breach rules. She was caught speeding last year. And 50 million people are trapped in modern slavery. North Korea, Eritrea and Mauritania are the worst offenders. 28 million people are in forced labor and 22 million in a forced marriage. These are the findings of the 2023 Global Slavery Index. Day 2 of Prime Minister Modi's visit to Australia. Yesterday, the mega reception captured the headlines. Today, the leaders got down to business. Prime Ministers Albanese and Modi held talks. Now, usually bilateral talks are a mundane affair, largely about diplomatic statements and bilateral agreements. But today was different. Today, we have significant outcomes to report. The first big takeaway is this: Prime Minister Modi's strong message on separatism, the pro-Khalistan elements and the attacks on Indian temples in Australia. In recent months, we witnessed a spate of such incidents. Hindu temples across Australia have been vandalized. Since January, at least 4 Hindu temples have been attacked. And who was behind them? Khalistani separatists, groups and individuals who want to divide India, who want a separate country for Sikhs carved out of the Indian state of Punjab. The Khalistan movement has been a violent one. It's been outlawed in India, but it has taken root in the West, mostly in countries like Canada, the UK, the US, and now Australia. In a lot of these cases, separatists operate with the backing of Pakistan. They're funded and supported by forces who want to hurt India. And New Delhi sees these overseas Khalistanis as a clear national security challenge. So India has reacted sharply to attacks on its diplomatic missions and Hindu temples. It has demanded swift action against the perpetrators. It has asked governments to crack down on them. Prime Minister Modi raised the issue again today with his Australian counterpart.
ऑस्ट्रेलिया में मंदिरों पर होने वाले हमलों और अलगाववादी तत्वों की गतिविधियों के संबंध में हमने पहले भी बात की थी और आज भी हमने बात की है। भारत और ऑस्ट्रेलिया के सौहार्दपूर्ण रिश्तों को कोई भी तत्व अपने विचारों या अपने एक्शन से आघात पहुंचाए, ये हमें स्वीकार्य नहीं है।
It is important to act decisively and urgently. You see, the Indian community in Australia is growing, especially the Sikh community. In 2016, there were 130,000 Sikhs in Australia. 5 years later, in 2021, that number shot up to 210,000. India fears that this community is vulnerable. If separatists are allowed to operate freely, they will target the Sikh community. They will exploit these numbers to revive the Khalistan movement. Prime Minister Albanese of Australia has repeatedly given a personal assurance to check this. He has vowed to use every available resource to crack down on Khalistanis, and the fact that Indian Prime Minister Modi brought it up again shows how seriously New Delhi views this. So separatism was high on the agenda, but there was much more to the conversation today between the two leaders. The second big takeaway from today's meeting is a migration deal. India and Australia signed this deal today. It will significantly improve India's access to Australia. This deal will benefit students, graduates, academic researchers and business owners. How? By ensuring more visas and easier travel rules. Australia will create a new type of visa, a 3-month temporary visa exclusively for Indian nationals. This will be for people who want to visit Australia to see family members or working or studying there. And that's not all. Business visas will now enable longer stay. Plus, there will be yet another type of visa for academics and specialists. All in all, easier access to Australia. The third major takeaway is on the security front. India and Australia are seeking more synergy. They have a common security challenge called China. Through military and diplomatic moves, the Communist Party of China has threatened the security of both India and Australia, even challenged their sovereignty. Now, this issue was supposed to come up during the Quad summit. The Quad, as you would know, is a multilateral grouping with 4 members: India, Australia, the United States and Japan. Their leaders were supposed to meet in Sydney today. But Biden changed his plans at the last moment and the summit had to be called off. So Modi and Albanese took up some of the Quad agenda in today's meeting. They recognized the threat from China without naming it, and they reaffirmed their commitment to protecting the Indo-Pacific.
Quad leaders stand together for an open, stable, secure and prosperous Indo-Pacific region. A region where sovereignty is respected and all countries, large and small, benefit from a regional balance that keeps the peace.
So those were the important takeaways. They also discussed cooperation on mining and critical minerals. There's talk of an Australia-India green hydrogen task force, plus a trade deal. They're close to signing one. It could happen by the end of this year. And all of this shows how India's relationship with Australia is evolving. Prime Minister Modi described it best.
पिछले 1 साल में ये हमारी 6ठी मुलाकात है. अगर क्रिकेट की भाषा में मैं कहूं तो हमारे संबंध T20 मोड में आ गए हैं.
Our ties have entered the T20 mode, he said, meaning just like a fast-paced T20 game, bold and rapid changes are being made to redefine the India-Australia relationship. Wars are fought on the battlefield, but they're won behind closed doors. I'm talking about diplomacy. If you're popular, you win more. If you're isolated, well, not so much. Just ask Ukraine's President Zelensky. His support is mostly in the West. Beyond that, there is sympathy at best, indifference at worst. So what does he do? Try to create new alliances based on different ideas. Clearly, the talk of sovereignty is not helping. So why not try religion? Let me explain. This year, President Zelensky hosted an iftar event. Iftar is the evening meal. Muslims use it to break their Ramadan fast. This year, Zelensky also participated. He said Ukraine respects the traditions of Ramadan. He also accused Russia of mistreating Crimean Muslims. Listen to this.
Let's not forget that Russia's attempt to enslave Ukraine began from the occupation of our Ukrainian Crimea. From repressions in Crimea of Ukrainians, Crimean Tatars, and of Crimean Muslims.
Now, for the record, he's never done this before. Zelensky was elected in the year 2019. The war began in 2022. So why did the iftar tradition begin only this year? Maybe it's a late but genuine outreach. Maybe it's a political strategy. Or who knows, maybe a bit of both. Ukraine's Muslim population is just 1%, but in Crimea, they make up more than 12% of the population. And their past is traumatic. In 1944, Crimean Tatar Muslims were forced into exile. They were packed into cattle trains and transported to Central Asia. The reason? Historians are not sure, but some say Soviet leader Stalin was paranoid. He did not want minorities in border areas. It was only after the Soviet Union fell that many of these people returned. My point is, they still hold a grudge. In 2014, Russia held a referendum after invading Crimea. The Muslims boycotted it. Moscow also banned the elected assembly of Tatars. So the dislike is mutual. Could Zelensky be trying to weaponize that, to recruit Crimean Muslims in the war against Russia? That's one possible strategy. The other one is to build support in West Asia. Most of those countries have refused to criticize Russia. Some are actively supporting it. And why is that a problem for Zelensky? Why does he need West Asia? Because of two major factors. Number one, political support. West Asia and North Africa is home to 20-plus countries. If they support Zelensky, it would boost his position, give him more legitimacy. Factor number two, they have leverage. West Asian countries are also oil producers. They have a cartel called OPEC. OPEC plus if you count Russia and others. Guess who's also in the same business? Russia, of course. Most of Moscow's money is coming from energy. If OPEC can clip that, it would help Ukraine.